Yeah, but
But
you're basing all these fossils because you're building your phylogenetic tree, and it's all fitting neatly into a nested hierarchy, right? Because
I
that's
mean, we
what.
can look at that. That's
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
but
to the 5-year-old from earlier, we could sit a 5-year-old down and say which of these is not like the other, with a a lion, a human, an elephant, and a
and a
jellyfish, and they're going
banana
to
and a
say
pine
the lion,
pine.
human. You know,
Well, I'm trying to say that there's a competing model and explanation that would
there isn't.
also predict a nested hierarchy because creationists would predict a nested hierarchy.
Why?
That's why. Well, I'm going to use an analogy. Do you want me to use it, or do you want
No,
me to
I want
just?
you to tell me specifically using data why you would predict a nested hierarchy within creationism.
I'm trying to say that based on design and based on the fact that God created us in his image, there's evidence there that, we're going to be able to see things that we design
Did he create
and
elephants in his
correlate
image?
and infer that that's the type of way that he might have. Because if I actually, and I'm going to use this, I know you don't like analogies, but for the sake of argument, I would say the means of transportation naturally fall into a hierarchical classification scheme
Oh.
because we're going to recognize one category that we call cars. And even though each car, Jackson, is unique, you're going to have to agree that all
Can
cars
we
share a set of features.
can we go back to the drawing boards at any point and completely redesign cars totally unlike anything that's ever been designed so far?
Actually, there has been a descent of modification. Like if you look at a
So can we
2018
do
Cruise and
can
you
we
look at a Cruise 10
completely
years ago, there's been modification. You could
can
almost say
we
that they've evolved.
can we completely no, I wouldn't absolutely not say they have evolved. At least
You
not in the
can
biological sense.
Oh,
What I would say,
obviously, yeah, in
I
in
mean,
in the change sense. But I'm trying to say, just wait. If we shrunk, just like in biological life, if we shrunk the list of shared features, say in pickup trucks, SUVs, and brought it into the same group with cars, we're going to be able to see slowly that nested hierarchy building.
uh,
And the more vehicles that we try to say lump into our transportation classification system, the smaller, just like in the biological realm, the smaller the list of shared features becomes. And it's
remember
just
how
like what we observe in the Linnaean classification system. Go ahead.
remember how last time I pointed out that cars don't reproduce, therefore they don't pass on inherited traits.
Yeah, but that's a
Therefore,
straw man
they
with our model because
no,
our
no.
inference
It's
is based
look.
on
Here's why it's
design.
not, because what you can't. And here's why analogies do not work in this arena.
I,
Is
I,
that
I would just
what?
because I just want to because you didn't let me respond to the reproduction thing last time. You kind of just talked over me. I think that's a bad example because I'd like to see how reproduction came about anyway, since it's extremely complex.
That's a non
And
sequitur.
secondly, I think that the evidence of design and modes of transportation, lines of code, say in Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and Microsoft Word, I think it's so evident of a common designer that the only explanation and rebuttal that an evolutionist can give is, oh, well, they don't reproduce. I think completely
It's not.
that is
And I can
unconvincing, and
give
I
you
think
another
it's a
one.
straw man. Go ahead.
I can give you another one. Actually, we can't place cars in nested hierarchies. We can't do it
Sure, we can.
because no, we can't actually because
I just
different
showed you why
manufacturers
we
can.
can.
No, actually, we can't because manufacturers can borrow designs, and if two manufacturers borrow the same design, the exact same design, they are both creating the same thing. Then the nested hierarchy falls apart because this is the same structure on two different unrelated things. For one thing, second of all, no, the reproduction thing is actually is the whole reason evolution happens is alleles are varying as they're being passed on generations. That's literally what the definition of evolution
I
is.
agree that
And
evolution,
so
means
so
change in
cars
allele frequency and populations
so
over
that's
time. I agree
biologic
with that.
evolution. So cars, that analogy doesn't work in any respect. And so you can't place cars in nested hierarchies. What we can do is
I
we can
just
place
did.
no, you didn't, because when two different manufacturers, you're talking about two different clades of cars, share designs, they have just crossed. How do you plot that on a
Okay,
phylogenetic
so
tree?
so you're saying Chevrolet and say Chrysler. Okay, so they're two totally different designers, two totally different manufacturers.
They
They're
invented.
borrowing design. I mean, I don't understand how that's an argument against.
How do
Because if
you
we look at cars, they occupy, say, the genus and species level. Trucks, SUVs, and cars form a family. Orders represent the different, say, purposes for land-based vehicles, and you could just go on and on and on. The environments in which transportation operate, that could constitute as the class
but
level, say
you're
boats, airplanes.
the manufacturers can at any time go back to the starting point and redesign a car totally unlike anything ever
Are
anywhere
you
else ever.
Are you saying like making a whole new car?
Yeah, you could go back and make a 5-wheeled car or something that's totally different from any other car. You can't do that sort of thing in biology. It's not possible. What we
Exactly,
see
because
is
all
organisms
this
passing.
variation that we're seeing in species is all based on pre-existing
And
genes,
I'd like to see
pre-existing
a paper
information.
demonstrating that. I'm still waiting from last time. Uh, because it doesn't happen. Because that sort of thing does not happen. It's not. There is no just simple degradation of mutations that's occurring, because that's not being observed in the
I'm
population.
showing you that there is a competing model. Obviously, I understand you don't agree that the the modes of transportation actually fit and show an example of common design. But that's why I personally believe it comes down to a genetics level, because the fossil record can be interpreted through a creationist lens and an evolutionary lens. There's
I've
competing
looked at it through
models,
the
but
creationist lens, and
it's genetics where the game is won, and I believe that it's being won
so
on the creationist side. Go ahead.
so here's why it's not, because Sanford, his model is not accepted among actual geneticists. And you can ask the actual geneticists. You don't have to just listen to these quotes that are being given by other creationists. I encourage you to actually go ask the geneticists, read their papers on this stuff. The models, like Sanford's model, are not accepted by anyone outside of creationism. When we actually look at what the data shows, is that you have new structures and functions and proteins which originate through completely natural means, and I provided examples. Uh, this is not an indication of Sanford's model. It's precisely the opposite, and so that's why it's not only not accepted. It's not a model that's working. It's been tested. That sort of thing has been worked out already among the geneticists in the field. They've already worked this stuff out. It doesn't work.
Okay, so I would say our model predicts, and I understand everything you're saying. I would say, and we'd have to test this and demonstrate it, so that that would be the burden on us. I would say, we're going to predict limits. We're going to predict that our genome is functional based on design. We're going to predict, the majority of mutations are very deleterious. A lot of the traits, the gains of functions, the changes and variations we see are mostly due to a sorting out and a loss of information. While I believe that God originally wrote the genetic script, we're now seeing variations based on the genetic script. I don't believe evolution. I don't believe mutations are a genetic script writer. I just believe they're merely typographical, obviously, alterations on a genetic script that's already been written. So I think that's where the debate comes down to. I think we